But an architectural journey is a continuous journey. The fusing of art and structure becomes architecture. No two buildings of mine are identical, no two homes of mine are identical. You may have come to listen to me, but I've not come here to talk to you. Architecture is beyond me. It's a phenomenal subject, phenomenal thing. That's why I tell you, young architects and young builders, venture it. Believe it or not, the council called me and said, "You are a member." "Sir, I'm not qualified." "We qualify. Believe it or not, every one of those theses was built and acknowledged as one of the finest projects in the world, not just India. Who built the rules? The British gave you the rules? Does it make any sense to you? Technology has brought it to a different level, but these architectural spaces existed even then. That's the worst thing. It is not negative. Learn to not know so that you can learn more and more.
A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, and let's welcome architect Krishna Rao Jaisim onto the stage.
And thousands of times. But every time is a new time. Even as I see this, and when they gave the title Timelessness, I didn't know what time was. I tried writing many things of experience. They said, "You just can continue with the slides irrespective. It's just a background to keep people looking at that rather than hearing me." Architecture is an experience. Although I write down many notes, it's like any of my talks to students, the notes disappear from the mind. How many of us understand the environment? How many of us learn to know? It is not that. It's a question of the journey. When I was told there will be fascinating youngsters and other people of experience in this space, I was looking at many factors that got me into the field of architecture. The fascinating part of it, I'm sure many of you have heard me again and again, but an architectural journey is a continuous journey. I was talking to my yoga, I will call him teacher, although he's not even 1/3 my age, in the morning and said, I was talking to Mukta also, what is the yoga of architecture? So we are having a discussion on this. Just a dialogue. How does culture happen? How is it that in India we still talk English rather than the local languages? Then we woke up and say English has also become a local language. In fact, the British couldn't understand our English. When I went to Liverpool and gave a talk, half of them were scratching their heads. But then I told them the story. They said my experience. Tell me whenever you think I should stop. Mukta knows I have no end to my talks. I end my talks straight away. I could hardly study in many schools. Part of my experience. Studied in some of the biggest schools in India. Then my mother, who was the daughter of a very senior top chief architect of the Maharaja of Mysore, I didn't know that he had designed some fascinating projects and things, that he had gone abroad to study. She said, one of my children must also do architecture. My brothers and sisters were all very high, all gold medalists and superb. I had an younger brother who was in IIT Madras, a gold medalist thing. My brother was in English electric and various things. It came to me, and when I went to usually there were only 5 schools of architecture in those days, and they were very strict, hardly 15 admissions per year. That's the first experience. She said, "They're calling you." I said, "Who?" I never applied. And my mother said, "No, I have applied on your behalf. I knew you wouldn't apply." Anyway, she took the car, made my sister drop me there. And I walked in. Said, "Why have you come?" It was in AC College of Technology, Gindi at the time. I was just sitting there. "Sir," one of them came and said, "Are you Jaisim?" I said, "Yes." "You must go for the interview." I said, "What interview?" "You have applied." I said, "I did not apply." Then one of them smiled. I think that professor, I didn't know at the time, he was one of the leading architects in India. I won't tell you the names. They looked at me. I said, "What do you do?" "So sometimes," I walked in, they pulled me in, they said, "You come, you're in an interview." I said, "What interview?" I didn't know all the 3 of them were running some of the biggest practices in the country. "You like art? You like things? What do you do?" "I don't know," I just smiled. "Then why did you come?" I mean, the question, they were very open in the discussion. They wanted to break me up and see what I wanted to do. I still remember the day will not go. I loved art because many of my cousins and other friends were great dancers of both Bharatanatyam and other things. And I loved sitting in the music academy and the others and watch them dance. The dance got into me. And one of the greatest singers of India was a great friend of my father and grandfather, who I would listen to music. Not knowing anything, I would just sit there and listen. Somehow my mother or my sister observed this and said, "You were sitting and listening." I said, "Yes, it really takes me to beyond trances. It becomes the real spiritual heaven of my thinking." She said, "That's why we put you in architecture." I said, "I want art. I don't know what that structure means." "Oh, your grandfather was an architect." I still didn't understand. I still today don't understand what architecture is. But I walked in. They looked at me. I will never forget. I'm telling you, youngsters, how the story began, because they said I must tell my story. There was, as I said, the big battalion. "You come. Why do you want to join architecture?" I said, "I didn't want to join architecture." "Why have you come?" "I've been asked to come. My mother gave me a motorcycle if I joined architecture. It was a Triumph Tiger Cub. So that was what perplexed me. Now that I've got the bike, I don't want to join." Anyway, he looked at me, the other person. "Condition." I said, "What condition, sir?" "Before you join, you will have another 3 months. Will you come and be in my office?" It happened again and again. I said, anyway, to go, college looked nice, place looked nice, it was near the beach, I could go. So I joined the college. I would sit sometimes, walk away. Some of the finest, greatest architects, some of the beautiful, I won't tell you the name, the man who writes phenomenal writings on the history of architecture and the culture of architecture. That simply thrilled me when I started listening. Then my entire mind and journey changed. And that is the same time when my brother presented me on my birthday on that year, Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. I read it and read it and read it. Initially it was so fat, I couldn't read it. But he said, "Did you read it?" I said, "I can't even stop reading. I'm just continuously reading till Howard Rock got into me." Then he said, "What?" I said, "I am an architect, but I don't have to go to the next 4 years." As far as the book is concerned, I've understood every bit of this in the way that I want to practice architecture. Or I want to be an architect. I didn't know there was such a thing as practice. That book led me into the thing. And at the same time, I don't know how many of you knew, I was a very arrogant youngster. Because of that, I won't tell you the name of the chief minister, one big man. He called me and said, I understand you are the president of the Students' Union. And I said, "Sir, I didn't want to be, they made me the president of the Students' Union. You're not even in your first year." I said, "Yes, because my father put me in Jain College to do this," and they came. "You are the youngest." At that same year, I met another architect, second year. They were much senior to me. Some of them are still doing very well. I said, "We are starting a PAA after this. That's a Practicing Architects Association. When you finish, you must join that." That was also started. I somehow finished my first year because of art and structure. Then another fascinating thing happened as I went through. The third year, we used to have a break, an internship. I don't know how it is now. Then internship, the other senior architect called me and said, "Tomorrow you will again report to my office." Anyway, I went to the office. Very large office. The biggest, huge number of people. He said, "Why have you come?" I said, "They called me, so I came." "Who called you?" I said. He said, "He doesn't call people. You must have just walked in." I said, "No, I walked in." At that time, I walked around the hall where he had done his projects. I looked around, then he walked in. He didn't, "Come." Initially, that practice was owned by a very big British firm. He had taken it over. So I walked behind him. "When will you start work?" I finished the internship. "When will you start your internship work?" I didn't know what got into me. What made me say what I said? Because of the writing, we used to have the newspaper of architecture, where I became an editor even in my third year before internship. I don't know, I just looked at him, went around, saw. Then I came out, I met another senior architect of mine as he was passing by. I said, "Who are the main competitors of his office?" Another big name came up. I don't know what got into me. The next day, early morning, I took my motorcycle, parked in the Dun buildings, one of the biggest buildings in those days. I asked the peon, "Sir, you can't park." I said, "Wherever I park, I'll park." Because my motorcycle is a very great motorcycle. They would allow me to park. This is how you get in any building. You must have an imported car in those days. They would just salute you and move in. You not even know why they salute you. Went up to the floor. The receptionist was there. I said, "I want to meet so-and-so." "You can't. Without an appointment, you can't." But one of them said, "He may be a client." Maybe. Then, again, one great man walked in. I didn't know who he was. He walked in. He said, "Who is that youngster sitting out there?" Then I said, "Sir, I've just come to meet you. Tell him that I want to meet you." He also didn't. So he called me and said, "Call him." So, but he doesn't have an appointment. Doesn't matter. I saw him sitting there waiting. Call him. So I went inside. He said, sit down. I said, how can I sit in front of you? I'm not a client. He just looked at me. Why are you coming? So I want to do my internship here. Why don't I thought you were going somewhere else. Why are you coming here? I don't have any place. Sir, I didn't ask for any place. Sorry. This is the problem. There's another architect calling. Okay. He's from Delhi. How to put it off? You know how to put it off? Put it in silent mode. I'm useless in technology. Just put it in silent mode. I walked him. Hey. I've lost enough phones in my life. Many students take it and, sir, it is my memorable, and takes it away. I can't even go home without it. He said, sit down. We don't have any place. But so the fact that you're asking me to sit down and willing to talk, ask me who I am, knowing that I'm no longer a client of yours. I'm not a client. But I have no place, young man. Sir, I don't need a place. I just want to be here. Believe it or not, he had no place. He walked into the studio. There was no place. I said, sir, I'll sit outside with the receptionist. He said, just smiled at me, called one of his senior architects and said, he's got the guts to meet me. He's got the guts to talk to me without even an intervention. Keep him with you. What for? Take him to all the sites, put him on. That's when it got into me that architecture is not learned much in the colleges. You learn some theory, you learn some things, but you really learn when you walk these spaces. When you run these spaces, especially with another senior person talking, the contractor walking, the services walking, that is when I understood the meaning of structure and art. The fusing of art and structure becomes architecture. Vastu happens. And then when the fusing happens, art by itself can't do anything. And technology by itself makes a mess. Structure, you go, they made me a life member of the Structural Engineers Association. I said, why? I'm now, no, sir, you understand structure. They said, by yourself, what can you do? You just build without even knowing why. And I, as an artist, don't know what to build, how to build. And even then, I looked at somebody, like the Plumbers Association is having a board of directors. Sir, will you come and address? I said, no. Without the plumber, without the services, what can you achieve? Nothing. So I realized that great profession, which is very, very unknown, is the most learning, knowledgeable process to human life. Because when you meet different cultures and different type of people, no two people are identical, no two cultures are identical, no two nations are identical. Whenever I build a fortune, she knows, no two buildings of mine are identical, no two homes of mine are identical. Not because I can't make them identical. In fact, it makes it cheaper. I just dump the drawings and say, build. Nay, every spirit from that little child in the home to the person, the grandfather, the grandmother became. This is when, I don't know, by very accident, the great musician I talked one day, I understand you have now, when I finished architecture, I want you to design my home. Madam, any architect in this world will do it for you. No, I want you to do it. The same thing happened with the other person, another person. When these people built their hotels in Madras, they don't know. We built their hotels in Madras, then it became something else. What I'm saying, the journey of architecture, I was talking to some sadhus the other day, is an unknown journey. Because when you take your steps, you ask me who told me this. Shall I tell them? I liked it because mine is KJ and he is JK. How many of you know that? That's where it made me put my daughter in his school. He was staying Arville in Adyar, where they had a very big institution. He would go to a tree and sit down and just meditate and think. Within half an hour, 10 minutes, there will be a lot of people sitting around him. That's how I met him through a very other person. I also would sit. He would look, he wouldn't even bother. He would just look at each one, not even smile, have a think. Then he would get up and go. And all of us would follow him. He wouldn't even turn back. He would walk the path. He would now and then pretend. None of us would go in front of him because he walked the path and we walked his path. Then he came back again and said, all of us would sit down. Then he would, who are all you? Why are you here? So we have come to listen to you. You may have come to listen to me, but I've not come here to talk to you. I'm sitting under this tree. I'm sitting under this wonderful nature. I love this place. I love to walk. I always be found every time we met him, he would walk a different walk. Never the same walk. That is what fascinated me. Let us see where he will walk this time, where he will go. Many of you will recognize whom I'm talking about. He was an unbelievable character. And when they instituted, what I really loved about it, he said, what are you doing, in a different way of talking? Or who are all, just for the fun of it. See, I was very young. We're all very big people sitting around. Then somebody would say, he is studying architecture. I don't know who, 2 days later, somebody came to my house and said they want to build a school and they want to build a cultural project. I said, I'm working with these people. I can't do it. You'll have to give it to project to them. I don't know what got into me, believe it or not. Two things happened. I just walked into my office, I'm in his office, the great architect's office. He said, Jaisim, what do you want? You're still standing. Sir, from tomorrow I'm not coming. What do you mean? I said, sir, it'll be most unethical if I come here and do my own work. No, you can do that also here. Said, that is not correct. I will have to follow your philosophy, whereas my philosophy is maybe different. Or then you can ask the client to walk into it. No, sir, then I will never be an architect. I don't know what got into him. He looked at me and said, you're the first man who had ever the guts to talk to me like this in this fascinating way. You don't have to resign. I'll let you go. But believe it or not, I don't know, even now my mind shivers, body shivers. I walked home. He said, you take 3 months, 2 months. No, sir, that is not fair. From tomorrow I'm not coming. But if there is anything you want finished, which I have not done, I'll ask some juniors or somebody to do it. He said, okay, you finish off all whatever you want. Sit for the next 3 days, finish it off. I sat 3 days, finished it off. He smiled at me and said, anytime you want to walk back in, you walk in. When I went back home, my mother asked me, why are you not going? I said, I'm not going anymore. I've told them I won't come because my journey is different. But she said, there are some people waiting at the gate. I found many of these people were the clients with whom I was working for. He was the architect. I said, we want to continue the project. We want you to be the architect. I said, no, I cannot be. He is your architect. And I liked one person out here. Okay? I'll give you a new project, not that project. Will you do it? I said, if that is new, I'll still talk to him. Or you go and tell him that you're giving it to me. I will take it. Believe it or not. That project, many others which followed. That's why I owe the gratitude to the other person. Made me rise mountains and mountains. Many of you know it. Many of you have been there. When I felt there was something wrong. Because my wife, who was an IAS officer, who could have supported me for the rest of her life, she resigned because of me and joined the bank. And then, after 2 years or 3 years, I don't know, I said, I'm doing so much here. When somebody walked in and said, Jaisim, we looked at your projects. I said, yes, Fountainhead and Christian. Can you please fly tomorrow morning to Muscat? I said, I don't even have a passport. I have nothing with me. Believe it or not, within 24 hours, the visa and the passport landed in front of me. So the flight is booked, there's a car waiting for you. You have no choice. I said, why not go have a look at this desert, wherever it was? So I landed there. It was a fascinating journey. And after I landed there, I don't know how it is these days, they took my passport and confiscated it. Softly. They said, we'll return it to you. They wouldn't. They took me to the Oman. They said, redo this project. Fine. I said, I want to go back. He said, why? I said, my wife is back in Bangalore. Then Madras. Bangalore came afterwards for a different reason. Since you're talking about my journey and experience, I'm telling you. She said, what is she? She's a banker. Okay, you want to see her, right? That's your problem. I said, yes. Believe it or not, within the third day she was there. She said, Jaisim, what do you call me? I said, I never called you. The sheikh called you, they put you in a flight and brought me over on a buck. Then she said, my week is over, I'm going back. Madam, you're not going back. So what do you mean? Then one Lebanese person and the Sultan's right-hand person, they came to the cottage where they have put me up. Madam, we are going to start. We understand you're a banker. You're going to start a new bank. You'll be part of the bank. You will be the starter. It'll be called Bank of Muscat and Oman. That is hers. If she was here, she'll hit me for even saying it. Then State Bank of India called and said, you can't. They said, you can't go back, ma'am. She said, there, but you can't go back. You have started the bank. She said, where? Here, there's anything you want is your bank. Believe it or not. It became a phenomenon. The State Bank itself acknowledged her, madam, if you can start it, please go ahead. It's worth that you can work this. That's what I'm saying. The journey is an unworked. JK taught me this. It continuously, Howard Rock, Ayn Rand, Fountainhead, Atlas Shrugged. Reading objectivism became a big subject. Now the journey continued after this. After 5 years working there, or 4 years, I'm not sure. I said, I want to take a break. I want to take my wife. Go. Luckily for me, the ambassador became a very good friend because I was doing something. Came back here. Said, when are you returning? I said, I am not going back. India, this subcontinent, Madras is my place. Then I remembered Bangalore. I don't know what got into me 4 years there, put here. I said, I'm not even going to. I had built a beautiful house on the sea coast. Luckily for me, the great journal Kalki walked in one day with his son and looked at that house. Jaisim, it's no longer yours. It belongs to us. When you were not here, we visited it. I said, but I had left it to a Britisher to rent. He said, you told him to go, we'll put him in a hotel. We are taking out. I said, it solves me one problem. So I went to Bangalore. I said, I'm not going to practice anymore. Architecture is beyond me. It's a phenomenal subject, phenomenal thing. There was a small college of architecture in UVC. Somebody heard, said, can you come and give some talks? I said, for what? On architecture. You'll throw me out. That started another journey. Then somebody came and said, can you design? I said, no. That is where I appreciate the family. My sister came, my brother came. You don't do for all of them, but you can't refuse to do our homes. I said, no, I can't. And they bought the builder contract, we built it. I don't know, some of the slides may be here and that. The journey again took another path. I didn't know the top people, including the President of India, would walk into that place. Abdul Kalam came into that place. He said, why don't you come to Delhi to do this project? Then the housing board and HUDCO came in. For what reason, I don't. We have done some largest prefabricated housing, which I don't even put on the papers. She knows the tetrahedra project. How many people knew? 40 years back we did it. Today the West is claiming their rights in the tetrahedra project. I learned it by people. Where you could walk up to 6 floors without an elevator, with gardens at every floor. These things happen. That's why I tell you, young architects and young builders, venture it. Then came a phenomenon. Even Shivasubramaniam called me again today. From Gammon, India, another great structural engineer. Jaisim, I've heard of you. I want to meet you. I said, sir, you are a one of the top structural engineers in the country. How can, heard of your structures, I've seen some of them, I want to come. I said, I have no structural, I think Dilip joined much later. He's got another huge. They came in, walked in. He said, we are starting a new company. We call it Fountainhead Limited, a private limited company. I said, I'm not even a member of the council. How can I practice on the thing I own my own? Believe it or not, the council called me and said, you are a member. Sir, I'm not qualified. We qualify you. We have seen what you're doing. I won't tell you the... This is what then they made me IIA president. I said, I'm not qualified. I said, you may say you're not qualified. That is not your problem. Your journey is being judged by us. This is what I tell young architects, be bold. My thesis, as I told you earlier, was rejected and rejected and rejected because I wouldn't comply with the school. Believe it or not, every one of those theses was built and acknowledged as one of the finest projects in the world, not just India. I took them all one day in that same college. I presented it. So fantastic, yes, fantastic, but you failed me on these projects. The man got up. He didn't know what to say. Because I loved playing cricket and playing hockey. That's where I would go away during the design piece. Sir, I've got cricket match, I've got a hockey match. I wish I'd continued cricket. Some of the top people were good friends of mine. I would have made more money and things. We built stadiums, we built many things. This is the journey that starts. Till we started Fountainhead here again, moved. Every time I build one thing, somebody wants to buy it. This is the 6th place. Then finally, after about 50 years, somebody came and said, my wife came to me. We were meeting at a senior citizens' place. What will we do after we cross an age of 60? At that time, Art of Living also became a client. Friend. He liked my friend. So we did the Sri Sri University in its thing in Orissa. I used to fly up and down, gave it to an young architect to do it, to continue, and do some big structures with tetrahedra, again, dimensional structures, which I learned from Buckminster Fuller. He became a great friend. Then, all dead now. Then when I came back and looked at the space and various things, I said, we will stop, because everything was being bought. So all these youngsters, I said, you start and do. I will assist you, because I even now wrote down so many points to write. I said, where do I start my journey? Where do I stop my journey? See, another thing that happens in our lives, in those days, I would climb 6 floors, 7 floors. If there are rules that were not broken, I would go to the commissioner and whoever the building authority was and said, why can't I build so many floors? Or why can't I change my spaces? So that is the rule. I said, who built the rules? The British gave you the rules? Does it make any sense to you? Illa Saradre. I said, how did Indians and culture in India build? Just go back. This is when I started working at Hampi as archaeological understanding. Then I walked into some underground caves, which India still has. I don't know whether they allow you to walk in. I used to walk down the underground caves, the mines, Kolar gold mines, you're bringing back into. They used to invite me. They said, why do you want to go? They took me nothing. I said, why don't I convert this into a phenomenal hotel? He said, what do you mean? I like the KGHM. He's got a point. So he said, how would you do it? My legs really thrill me even now when I walk those spaces in that little train that would take you in. They put me in the bucket and walked. I sat in the bucket and walked. Because they no longer were using it as a gold mine. The thermal thing inside is unbelievable. The ventilation shafts are unbelievable. I don't know how many of you walked those mines. This is where, I don't know what they're showing some slides, where I took an anthill. This is what I was talking about, the anthill. I said, the greatest architect is there. Where? I said, there. The snake has taken it over, I said. What do you mean? That's the anthill. I said, look at the anthill properly. What is its scale? Look at that building, the thermal control building inside, and it walks in. You manage to walk. Imagine that ground built about almost our scale. What is a land? Not even 1/1,000,000th of a site. And yet one bites, we jump. And that is its language. Why are you interfering in my life? That brought me to a lot of spirituality in architecture. Architecture is tremendous spirituality of imagination and innovation. That pushed me into the next level of thinking, that no two projects as individuals grow, animals can think, birds can even build better buildings than we can ever dream of. Show me 2 nests which are identical of the same bird sanctuary or whatever it is. That's when they asked me to redesign a zoo. I said, why are you putting them in cages? What did they do to you? That's when we started the first zoo with the water around so that they won't jump across and you could walk in a ropeway. How many of you have seen it? I don't even want the acknowledgement. We said from the ropeway you watch the tiger and the lions move around, the elephants move around. That is because we were doing a ropeway project in the mountains. I said, bring the ropeway and build it in this way. They were thinking of an idiot architect. Luckily for me, the chief secretary became, just do what he asks. What are you losing? That is when, if you don't talk to the senior people, it's you who lose. When you talk to them, they understand. In fact, the other day, just closing up, tell me whenever you think, there were some very senior civil engineers and things who were trying to bring some structure in, because our lake, big lake which I had created was leaking. I didn't see it, except to know, Jaisim, what is happening to that lake? It's leaking. I said, what do you want me to do? You don't see there are trucks of concrete waiting to pour concrete. I said, for what? To build a dam. I said, India is the land of earth dams. Unbelievable. Why are they doing it? No, they're all super architects have returned from US and Canada and Europe. They've all come here. They walked around this day. They think that's the only way to build the dam. I said, I've also been abroad. I've seen. I went back. Luckily for me, the worker looked at me and said, Namaskara, sir. Yen ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀಯ? ಅವ್ರು ಮಾಡು ಅಂದರೆ, you understand Kannada, I don't know. He asked me to do it, I'm doing it. I just smiled at him. I said, do you have some cow dung and straw? Sorry, it's right here. He told me in Kannada. I said, even before I could say it, he said in Kannada, sir, that's exactly we told them. You go back to the huts in India, very well. Some of the fascinating architecture I've done, I think you remember the villas we used to do one there, was mud, cow dung and plaster. The best material available in the world. Only you should know how to put another structure on top of it, how to cover it and all. That's another architectural field when you need services. We just put it, didn't even cost us 1 rupee because mud was there, the straw was there, kind of. Labor was anyway hanging around. The water stopped. Now, here, some people don't like it because they've lost a big contract. They've lost spending money. Same thing is happening with the Builders Association. When I have them, the next day I'm made life member of the Builders Association. I'm a lifetime on Plumbers Association, of the Islay Electric Association. What can I do? That's another journey, because then you meet. Even if you can get one person in these service areas to interact with you, it works. What is lighting? What's the hotel? What's the hospital? What is the home? How can you create that individuality and imagination work? And how do you fuse it with culture and art and structure and services? That's human life. That is architecture in its whole world. It's a very rare provision. Colleges will give you degrees. It's only degrees. It's like degree coffee. It's very good, but degree thing. You must learn to experience. And then you must appreciate, because you cannot translate into technology in building. You need a technology, you need a builder, you need a service. That is the fusion. Again and again, I keep saying, this tremendous fusion is possible by human life. All by oneself, you're nobody. Yet, the silence and meditation, when you can think of nothing and nothing, and everything within yourself, is a fascinating process. How many of you ever managed to sit in front of nothing, not the Shivalinga or anything? That is possible. I also design a lot of temples, 42 degrees pyramid and this. I just have fun. But the only person who appreciates me is not the pujaris and all, but the top man in the temple thing. He said, "Why are you smiling?" I said, "The God never asked me not to smile." He said, "In fact, he's happy that I'm smiling." He said, "You're right. Come, we'll walk around." That is the walk you should take. That walk of a journey that you don't know. Because that walk is the greatest walk on the world. If some follow, fine. Somebody behind follows, fine. Take an elephant if you want, take a bird if you want. You look at our culture in a very fascinating way. Somehow I believe more than 10,000 or 5,000 or more than time, this subcontinent, along with China and a few other countries, Turkey and others, has had a phenomenal, fascinating architectural spaces. Technology has brought it to a different level, but these architectural spaces existed even then. Go anywhere, explore it. You will learn much more. And then come back to your college and interact. Dialogue. You will find you learn more from unlearning. Because the more you learn, the less you know. The less you know, you think you know. That's the worst thing. It is not negative. Learn to not know so that you can learn more and more. Today, that's why I started by saying, I don't know anything. Because when I start learning, I find there is so much to learn. I can't learn everything. I can't know everything. Knowledge is a fascinating experience. Communication happens, interaction happens. That's another world. We are here in time, go away, another time comes, another spirit comes, another mind comes. I think I've taken enough of your time because I keep, as I told you beginning, I'll have quiet whiskey afterwards, and that'll take me to some spirituality of a different kind, if they will serve me. I don't know. This hotel, I keep pulling their legs. Only the main man recognized, "Sir, what are you doing?" I said, "I can't come to you." Anyway, thank you very much and namaskars. Any questions, something, I'll be the happiest to interact and dialogue. Anything you have, what little I've learnt, I'm willing to dialogue with you. I won't say I'll tell you back, but I can dialogue with you. I don't know what all I wrote.